Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, your host, and this is the program that comes into your home once a month on the first Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. in the evening. And with me is a panel of people who I am proud to announce are vitally interested in the same topics that I am, and that is Speakers and Leaders, thus the name of the show. And we follow that with Toastmasters and Robert's Rules of Order or Parliamentary Procedure. So we are part of the parliamentary world in that we are belonging or joining a group called the National Association of Parliamentarians. And the Toastmaster world by belonging to an organization that was established back in 1924 in October. In fact, it has been 90 years since Toastmasters was formed this month. And this is membership month. So if you have ever thought about joining Toastmasters, this certainly is the time of the year and the month to do it in. Well, just what is Toastmasters? Before I describe what Toastmasters is, I want to introduce to you the panel that you see in front of you. The first lady I'd like to introduce is Ms. Marlene Purdy. If you could wave at that camera there, Marlene. Marlene, by the way, is a past district governor. She is a past double division governor here in Division B. She is a fall conference chair, not once, but I believe twice. And next to her is the lovely Patricia Knaebe. And Patricia has in fact had the duty of being Division B governor 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row before that, she was an area governor. And I understand that next year you are to be the conference for the fall chair.
I am, yes.
And you also have some duty with the district. Are you not education chair?
I'm education dean this year.
Education dean for District 11, and that's all of Indiana, part of Kentucky. On the other side of the table is a very close friend of mine, a man that I have known for several years in Toastmastering, and I'm grateful for Toastmasters, or otherwise I probably never would have met him. That gentleman is a past area governor. He served at least 2 times, and I believe possibly 3. Yes. The gentleman's name is Mr. Tom Haller, and he is not only a DTM, he is now a double DTM. He has earned his second one at this time. And as of last week, he is the returning president to Anthony Wayne Toastmasters. And that's something that we're going to talk about, and I think we should talk about it right now. This has been a rough year for Toastmasters in all of District 11 because we have lost several really wonderful people. And Tom, I know you remember Robert well. Do you have any comments that you'd like to make about Robert at this time?
Well, Robert was a really interesting individual. He was a very caring individual. Most of his life, he did not have a lot of money. But what he had, sometimes you wondered where he got it. He did help others. He fed people when he didn't know where his own next meal was coming from. I believe he had someone living with him. I know he had someone living with him. I'm not sure if that was a rental situation or he just made his home available. He was an individual with some very unique ideas. I wouldn't say them. The one thing you could be sure of Robert, you would have an interesting conversation with him. An excellent speaker and also an excellent evaluator. He had a very high IQ. I know this because he assured us of this several times. But he also showed us. He was just very observant. Probably no one surpassed his ability to evaluate, and he also gave some great speeches. I mean, we could easily spend the whole hour. Indeed, last night we did spend the better part of an hour singing his praises, which, by the way, he was also an excellent singer.
Yes, okay, well, thank you, Tom. And on the other side of the table, we have Marlene and Patricia. Marlene, do you have any particular remembrances of Robert?
I remember Robert primarily because of his vocal ability. He had a beautiful voice, and we had a couple of times that we actually were able to sing some duets, and that was a great, great joy for me.
Okay, Now, Patricia, you probably didn't know him quite as long as anybody else, but you did have some contact with him, did you not?
Yes, and you're right, Dave. I did not know Robert Knox as long as everyone else or as well as everyone else. But every time we were engaged in conversation, I always came away with a little nugget of something extra that he would share. He was an excellent speaker, humorous, a wonderful singer, and always giving of his time and his energies.
Being the oldest member of the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, I remember when he first came to a meeting many years ago when we met out on Coliseum Boulevard at Didier's restaurant. And the person that brought him was a member of the Anthony Wayne Club, and that man's name was Don Hankey. And Don had been talking to Robert in a bank. He was just standing in line. And Don was praising the values and virtues of Toastmasters. And as a result, Robert came and stuck. And he was there ever since. But I remember most about Robert was his fabulous vocabulary. Tom alluded to the fact that he was quite bright. He was at one time, I know, a member of Mensa, and you don't pass that test too easily. So he was really very smart. And one of the last things that he did in the club, besides becoming club president and doing a very good job the few times he was there, was he actually broke down into component parts how a speech should be constructed, what should come first, what the supporting facts would be in the middle, and then how to conclude a speech. And he literally put that together and made it a very interesting presentation. And if you followed his advice, you would put together a cogent and very logical presentation that people would be proud to listen to, and also he would be proud to deliver. He was an unusual man. He had terrific skills. He loved to knit. And he's the only man I ever saw come to a Toastmaster meeting with knitting needles in hand and just clickety-clickety-click while the meeting was going on. And he produced hats, scarves, clothing, dresses. He was part of an interior designer. He just had many, many skills. And I know one thing that we've asked about his family was that he had purchased, I think from Sweden or Norway, a knitting machine that he paid several $1,000s for, and literally took up a whole room in his house, and that it was so large that he had yet to actually use it. So I don't think he ever got a chance to use it, and I wonder what will happen to it. I mean, maybe there's a knitting guild or something that would want that, but his family, I'm sure, will take care of it. Well, Robert Douglas Knox, a member of Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, a member of the Advanced Speakers and Leaders Toastmaster Club, an all-around good guy and one that will be missed. So, as we said last night, at one of the most interesting and enjoyable funerals I have ever been to in my life, God bless Robert Knox and his family. Amen. Yeah. Well, we are left the living behind here to do the bidding of the world, and of course, I think we're all good Christians here, and we'd like to believe that we are doing God's work, and by effectively developing our communication skills, that's something that we can use to impart the good news to the rest of the world and hopefully bring about world peace, which is what I know something that we all pray for. We're going to hear a couple different interesting presentations tonight, some on parliamentary procedure. We're going to have some evaluations here in just a few minutes after the speeches. And not only that, we are going to have an interview, and we're going to do that in just a few minutes. But we're going to have Patricia Knaebe give her speech, the one that she gave last Saturday, and she gave it at the humorous speech contest here in Fort Wayne. To be totally fair, in a contest, we like to have what is called a warm-up speaker, somebody that's funny, that's going to get the group started, but they're not part of the contest and they can't be judged against any of the other people. But although I was not fortunate to hear this speech there, I have heard so much about it that I have persuaded her to give it tonight. As I said, she's a distinguished Toastmaster, and she's also served as a division governor twice. And her speech tonight is about her 2 days and her 2 dogs, Moose and Fred. Let's welcome at this time Patricia Knaebe with Moose and Fred.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests at home. As you mentioned, I have 2 dogs, Moose and Fred. Moose is the older of the 2 gentlemen in the house. He is a 14-and-a-half-year-old Chesapeake Bay Golden Retriever mix. Fred, on the other hand, is an 8-year-old Pit Bull mix. Moose is the granddaddy of the house. Fred is the perpetual teenager of the house. When I walk these 2 dogs, it is a challenge because Fred is always ahead of me, straining at the leash, while Moose is behind me, and I am dragging him to keep up. I am being pulled by one, and I am pulling the other. A challenge. Fred is particularly challenging because he likes to capture the essence of nature. He will follow a leaf to the ground and lunge at it. He will snag an acorn off of the ground and chomp on it happily. He will chase a squirrel. But the thing he likes to chase the most? Cats. C-A-T, darn cats. He loves chasing cats. Now, mind you, we have a cat in the house. Fred's cat. But Fred's cat is different than the cats out in the real world. The cats out in the real world are enemy number 1, and we need to watch out for enemy number 1. As I'm walking the 2 dogs, Fred in front leading me leading Moose behind, it becomes very challenging for me to watch for the minefields that are out there, the squirrels, the falling leaves, the cats. I'm usually pretty good at catching the squirrels and cats before Fred sees them and lunges at them. I know enough to restrain him and hold him strongly until that squirrel scampers away or the cat runs across the street and hides. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, I had a situation where Fred saw that cat a split second before I did. That cat, that darn C-A-T cat, was lurking in a bush, peering out, and Fred spotted it. As I said, a split second before I spotted it. As Fred lunged for that cat, 2 thoughts simultaneously went through my mind. The first thought was, I am in complete control of this situation, this dog, and his leash. And as I was falling forward, losing my balance, my second thought was immediately on the heels of that first thought. And it was, I am completely out of control of this situation, this dog, and this leash. I had to let go of the leash or be dragged to kingdom come. I chose letting go of the leash. There I was, down on the ground, scraped knees, hurt back, tore my sweatpants. Moose was sitting there calmly looking at me like, "Are you hurt, Mom? Should we continue walking, Mom?" I got myself up, dusted off my pride a little bit, picked up Moose's leash, and immediately sauntered very gracefully down the sidewalk, hollering for the dog that was now completely missing. He was gone, nowhere to be found. Imagine, if you will, a hysterical woman with torn sweatpants, a bloodied knee, limping, dragging one dog behind her, hollering, "Fred! Fred! Fred!" at 6:30 in the morning. Can you imagine how happy my neighbors were? They weren't happy at all. I couldn't find Fred. I walked around the block, Moose gaily walking beside me. "I'm going on a walk, just me and my mom. Just me and my mom, no Fred." Fred wasn't to be found anywhere. Moose and I walked up to the house, and as I walked up to the house, a teenage boy from the neighborhood approached me. And he said to me, "Are you looking for your dog?" At that moment, a sarcastic thought went through my head, and I chose to ignore it and not let it spill out of my mouth. I thought, this boy is being nice. I'd better answer him nicely. I said, "Why, yes, I am looking for my dog, Fred." He said, "I think I know where he is." Off we went, me limping along, Moose coming along for the walk with me. We walked halfway around the block, and there was Fred. The teenage boy directed me to a neighbor's backyard. But this wasn't just any ordinary backyard. This was a sunken backyard. It was below street level. Fred had managed to jump over the 2-foot retaining wall and jumped into a yard that was 5 feet below street level. Surrounding him were 3 sides of the yard with fence and a retaining wall that he could not jump over to get out. What was the boy to do? I looked over that retaining wall, put my hands on my hips. "Fred, what are you doing down there?" "Just chased the cat, Mom. I just chased the cat. That's all I did, really." Wag, wag of the tail. "Can you come get me out now?" He was docile as can be, happy as can be. He chased the cat away. He got into somebody's backyard, and now he needed dear old Mom to get him out of trouble. I unlatched the gate, picked up his leash. The 3 of us, Moose, Fred, and me, walked home, where my boys happily ate their breakfast. Another uneventful morning in the life of me and my 2 dogs, Moose and Fred. Master Toastmaster.
Oh, thank you very much, Patricia. That was great. That was most interesting. You spoke for 6 minutes and 4 seconds. So if you want to write that down, I didn't have a chance to write it down yet. That's the kind of speeches that we give in Toastmasters. And the interesting thing about Toastmaster presentations is we never tell you what to talk about. That's really a no-no. And actually, then I have to give you a caveat, because then sometimes we do tell you what to talk about. For example, if we're having a program of historic old Fort Wayne, we like to hope all the presentations will deal specifically with historical things going on in our hometown, or maybe a parade day such as Memorial Day or 4th of July. We like to have something that relates to those topics. But generally speaking, you choose whatever you want to talk about. And we work out of manuals. And Patricia was working out of the basic manual. Project number 5 or 6, I believe, was research or topic.
Vocal variety.
Vocal variety. Oh, and well, your speech certainly had vocal variety. And now we're going to move on to a presentation. And this is, I get to be involved in this presentation. This is going to be presented by myself and Tom Haller. And it's Tom Haller's project to talk. Oh, we have a phone call. My gosh, we haven't had a phone call forever. Caller, are you there?
Please ask your question.
Well, apparently not.
Where's the call again? Where's the call?
Hello?
Yes, are you there, caller? Hello? We are waiting anxiously to hear from you. Well, maybe we've done something wrong. I'm sure. Here we go now. All right, are you there? We're here. Oh, he's gone. Okay, in that case, never mind. It's been exciting. We haven't had a call for a long time. So if you're out there, that number is 422-3902. We do have operators standing by, and we would love to hear from you. If you have questions about Toastmasters, perhaps leadership skills, perhaps you want to find a club, perhaps you know one of us and want to talk to us, give us a call. In the meantime, we're going to move on to a project from one of the advanced manuals, and this is the Communicating on Television manual, I believe, and it is interviews on a talk show. Okay, I'm seeing something from the booth that says that we have a phone call again. Are you there, caller?
No. I have a question.
Yes.
This is more for Patty. It just seems like that story was over-dramatized a little bit. Or Patricia, I'm sorry.
Could you speak up just a bit, sir?
I'm wondering if, when you're speaking, if that's just a little bit over the top. When, for me, Toastmasters is you can pick a topic and speak and make it interesting, not too candid. And I'm interesting too, and please don't take offense. What is Toastmasters doing to pull in younger people? Because I think the mix between people of your caliber that are experienced and young people, it would be interesting to see what we could do together.
I think that's
Thank you.
Excellent question. Thank you for asking, and I'd open that to the panel. And Marlene, you have something to say?
Well, I wanted to respond first of all to the caller. He has to understand that this was supposed to be an entertaining speech, and an entertaining speech usually does include a lot of animation and gestures and whole body movement. So that is actually part of the entertaining and the humorous speech. That's
Right. Mm-hmm.
natural, and that's why actually in a contest for humorous speaking, if you just stood up there and gave a humorous speech, because a humorous speech is not a series like a stand-up comedian, a series of one-liners. It is supposed to be a story and then have lots of action to it to be humorous.
Right.
So, and that
The
very
good
definitely did that,
example.
and find that out in my evaluation later. But
He also asked about involving young people. What do we do and what do you do, and do you have any suggestions?
well, for our particular club, we are online, and we're having an open house coming up later on this month, and we already have a commitment from a number of college students who are coming to attend our meeting. And we go out of our way to try to make it relevant to them, especially for Toastmasters can be very relevant when it comes to job search.
Oh yeah, I
In
think
fact-
that's most important and that's what some of the skills that you can learn in Toastmastering will help you with earning a job actually. So
And I have to share this because we had one member that I really, really hated to see him go. But he came back and said goodbye to us because he got a new job in Indianapolis, and he credited the skills he learned in Toastmasters with him getting this job. Makes me want to cry because I really hated to lose him. But it also made me very proud that we had something to do with his
absolutely.
moving upward in the career world.
Patricia, do you have any comments on that?
Absolutely. There are many colleges in the Fort Wayne area that ask their students to at least visit a Toastmasters club once. And as a matter of fact, the Ivy Tech communications instructor, Teresa Ransbottom, always invites her classes to come to our speech contest, whether they're the humorous or international speech contest, and talks with them about the importance of Toastmasters. As a former career services director for a few different colleges, I constantly talked with my students about Toastmasters. As a matter of fact, I would hold career fairs and invite Toastmasters to have a table there because it is important, as Marlene said, to go to the job interview, nail that job interview. You need great communication skills, and Toastmasters is a good place, cost-effective place to earn those skills and learn those skills.
Thank you, Patricia. Do you have any comments, Tom?
Yes. The Anthony Wayne Club, to which Dave and I belong to, recently had its open house, and we went all out. We did as much as we could to get people of a college age there, and we had several. We had quite a few there. Now, I'm not sure exactly what age you were referring to or if it mattered a lot. Toastmasters, as an international organization, has programs for youth. They have a couple of different kinds. They have gavel clubs, which we have had sometimes. We've had gavel clubs, which is for probably 12 and up. People are still in school. And they also have youth programs other than the gavel club. So, there's definitely an outreach. We definitely need to attract newer, younger people. Recently, Patricia and I were with a club that had people that were no longer in school by any means, but were younger than we were, at least younger than I am. And I looked out at them and I said, Patricia's getting awful busy. I'm getting awfully old. I hope we're looking out at the new Pat and Tom here somewhere out here. We do all we can to reach out.
I believe that we have another phone call. Caller, are you there? They're not there? They are there.
Hi there, this is Andrew.
Hello, Andrew. Yes, what's your question?
You were talking about college students, so I was just wanting to know what you have some links to some high school students or any high school clubs.
Okay,
I will answer that because we did have a club that was associated with the homeschoolers in Fort Wayne, because in order to be a member of Toastmasters, a regular member of Toastmasters, you must be at least 18 years old. So high school students would fall under the category for the gavel clubs. And we did have a gavel club, and I need to check because their dues are due, and I've got to make sure they're still meeting before we send in their dues.
Okay. And then there's the youth leadership program.
It started out as a youth leadership program. What was it? I want to say 3 years ago. We did it. Bob Norris and I did a youth leadership program with the homeschoolers, and they enjoyed it so much at the end they started a gavel club, and the gavel club has gone for several years, and I have to check to see if they're still going now.
Wow.
And that is for the high school age students.
Okay. Thank you. Does that answer your question? Are you still there? No, you're not. Okay. Well, thank you for that question too, and thanks for commenting. And I hope you're enjoying the program. And now you're going to hear a speech. And as I started to say some minutes ago, this is from one of the advanced manuals, and this is for a radio talk show. So I'm going to be interviewing Tom on a particular topic, and then we will go through the interview, and it will take, I believe, 5 to 7 minutes. Tom, is that correct? Yes, okay. So with your kind permission, I'll move over here and sit down, and all right. Well, let's see the red light. Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave Wilkins, and I'm here this evening with a gentleman from the Parliamentary Club here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and this is Mr. Tom Haller. Tom, as I understand, is a member of this club and charter, or is it a unit or club? I believe it's a unit. Parliamentary unit. So, Tom, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the parliamentary world?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for having me on your program. I joined partly because you asked me to. Let's be totally candid here. Mr. Wilkins was a parliamentarian long before I was. The other reason that I joined, I was in leadership positions in Toastmasters and found I really didn't know what I was doing. And there's not much more embarrassing thing than to be in charge and not have any idea what you're doing, and to have people from the audience correcting you who may or may not know what they're talking about. And over the years, I've come to find out that one reason why I have been in so many unproductive meetings is because the average person doesn't know anything about parliamentary procedure. And I would really, really like to correct that. The wider spread knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order is, the more effective we are. Let's face it, we spend an awful lot of our lives, whether we do that in business meetings, church meetings, whatever types of meetings we're in, neighborhood association, sports clubs, we spend a lot of time in meetings. A lot of that time is wasted because things are not accomplished. Sometimes things happen which shouldn't happen because they're contrary to the guidelines and bylaws and even the state laws. So it's just very important to know what you're doing, and parliamentary procedure is knowing what you're doing.
Okay. And so do you have a group here in Fort Wayne that meets regularly, and can you elaborate on that just a little bit?
Absolutely. We have a group that meets here once a month, the third Monday of every month. We meet in the Globe Room here in the downtown public library, the Allen County Public Library, from which the show is being broadcast. Not the same room, but the same floor in another part. It's easy to find because it has a large globe, a very huge globe, circling in front of that room. And we're very fortunate to have that room. It's an excellent room, and the public is invited. And we do have people come there all the time. And beyond that, we give them free advice, which is worth every penny they pay. No, we give them free advice on their whatever is bothering them, whether they've become president of a housing association or their bowling league. We attempt to help them with their concerns.
Okay. You mentioned it was on the third Mondays of the month. What time is that, Tom?
6:30 in the evening. I forgot to mention that because virtually all parliamentary, Toastmaster-related things in the Fort Wayne area that are evening clubs meet at 6:30 in the evening.
I hear you mention Toastmaster and parliamentary almost in the same breath. Is there any real connection between the two that you know of?
They are very definitely separate organizations. There's no commonality as far as control or anything, but Toastmasters does use parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Order in particular, to conduct their meetings, whether on a club level or on an international level, district level, whatever. Mr. Wilkins has been a little modest in his introductions of us. He is, in fact, the District 11 parliamentarian, and he has been for a number of years. So, yes, there's an association in that they help each other, they work together, but there's no commonality of ownership, so to speak.
I understand that. Now, you say that there's the parliamentary group and then there's the Toastmaster group. Now, the parliamentary group that is represented in Toastmasters is that's Robert's Rules of Order.
That's great.
And then there's an organization that uses, or, well, how should I want to say this? They underwrite Robert's Rules of Order. And what group is that?
I assume that you're referring to the National Association of Parliamentarians?
Exactly,
yes.
Yeah. And that's the one that we, as a I want to say club. We're not a club, we're a unit.
Right.
We as a unit are joining that society simply because they underwrite and are the same rules that all of the organizations that any of us belong to. And that, of course, is the book Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes. Just to clarify for the benefit of the viewers who may be at a loss right now, there is more than one. In fact, there are several associations that concern themselves with being in charge of parliamentary procedure. Mm-hmm. The two main ones for non-governmental purposes is AIP, which our club here has been a member of for since their inception many years ago, and NAP. And we're in the process of changing. Marlene Purdy is going to give us a lot more information on that very soon. But NAP is concerned only with Robert's Rules of Order as it is the Bible of what they do. And the other organization recognizes a number of authorities, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as Dave just said, we only use Robert's Rules of Order, so why we would study and preach anything else, we decided made no sense, so we're making that change.
Well, Tom, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me this evening. Is there anything that I should have asked you that you want to share with the audience that you could finish up with right now?
Just that I would encourage everyone to look into it, come and visit us, give us a call. Consider using parliamentary procedure in your organization. If your meetings are going on forever and nothing is accomplished, if you're pretty sure that things aren't the way they should be in your organization, you probably need to get with a parliamentarian, and getting with our club would be the ideal first step in my mind.
Alrighty. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for taking the time to do this interview this evening. And I'll return to the lectern here, and then we will take a break and then come back and discuss more parliamentary. Okay, I want to thank you again, Tom, for doing that. That has been most interesting. And now if we could go to the PSAs in the middle of the program, we will be back and see you in just a few minutes.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker.
Regardless what the caller said, I thought.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
And sometimes that's good.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer, and he says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Farmer says, doctor says, chicken says.
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club can give you that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Welcome back, and this is the second half of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. And now we're going to switch gears and really talk about parliamentary. Tom gave us a bit of an introduction with our notion of changing from one organization and joining as a unit here in Fort Wayne to be the Bob Lyman unit of the National Association of Parliamentarians. We have had a lot of help getting this going. It has taken many months, but distinguished Toastmaster Marlene Purdy has really had her work cut out for her, and she's done a terrific job. She joined the parliamentary world in 2002, where she passed the test to join the NAP. She's passionate about the topic, and she believes, as we all do, that meetings cannot run well without using some set of rules. So she's going to do two things. She's going to give us a presentation, and then she's also going to share with us some questions and answers about this joining of the new society. But her presentation tonight is going to be called Agendas. Can't live without them. Please welcome Marlene Purdy.
Thank you, Dave. And most welcome Toastmasters and parliamentarians, both here in the studio and out in TV land. Agendas. Now, you might wonder why in the world we would have agendas. How many of you ever played in any kind of athletics or sports? Well, I hate to think of what a football game or a softball game or a baseball game would be without the rules of the game. Although sometimes it appears that maybe they don't follow the rules and they don't have any rules, but for the most part they have rules that they follow. Well, the same way with meetings. If we don't have some guidelines or procedure that we follow, the meetings will go on and on and on ad nauseum. I always share this story, and Bill Cartwright, who was in it, one of the instrumental people in getting this show going, I think way back when, he always told about when he was on the town council, and I forget what town it was, southwest of Fort Wayne someplace.
Warren, I think.
Warren. And he had gone to a meeting of other council people, and the one guy was talking about how long their meetings lasted, and Bill shared that their meetings were really quite brief because they followed an agenda. And the guy looked at him and he didn't even know what an agenda was. Well, what is an agenda? An agenda is the guideline for running a business meeting. Now, you may think the call to order is part of the agenda. Believe it or not, it is not part of the agenda. You have a call to order and you have an adjournment, but those are like the bookends of the agenda. I'm going to give you some suggestions if you put the agenda together for your group. Number 1, reading or presentation of the minutes and the approval of the minutes. Now, in many organizations, they send the minutes out ahead of time, so people have them to look at, or they hand them out rather than reading them. Any of those systems is appropriate. The chair will ask, are there any corrections to the minutes? Now, they don't ask for additions or corrections because, believe it or not, additions are corrections. So are there any corrections to the minutes? And you don't have to have somebody actually approve the minutes. What you do, if you hear, the chair can state, hearing no corrections, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Or if they have corrections, they might go on and explain the corrections, and then the chair will say the minutes will stand approved as corrected. Second item on the agenda, reports of officers and committee chairs. Officers, usually the first one to report is the treasurer, and the treasurer gives the treasurer's report. And at the end of the report, you don't ask for approval of the treasurer's report because obviously the members don't have that checkbook to know if the treasurer's report is correct. So the chair will simply state after the treasurer's report, ask for any questions and say the treasurer's report will be filed for audit. Audit reports are then usually approved as presented by the audit committee, but that's a whole nother ballgame. But treasurer's reports are never approved, they're filed for audit. And then the next one, if there are any other officers that have reports, they give those reports. If there are any standing committee reports, those go at that point, followed by reports of special committees. Perhaps there was a committee assigned to plan the summer picnic. That committee would report in the next section. Following that section, any rules of order. In other words, if something happened previously and they had set it to be handled at this particular meeting, that particular one would take place at that point. Any reports of as presented earlier. Then unfinished business follows. Now, you many times hear a chair ask for, is there any old business? And that just, it's like fingernails on the blackboard for me. Because as you might understand, I am very passionate about proper parliamentary procedure. The term is unfinished business. Anything that has been handled at a previous meeting but not totally resolved and is brought up at this meeting would be unfinished. And finally would be new business. And new business would be anything that comes up that hasn't been introduced before. So that is the order of the agenda. And I would hope that your clubs and organizations follow it because it will really help as far as making the meetings much more efficient. One other just little caveat, when you have motions in a meeting, how many times do you hear I motion or I make a motion or something similar? The proper terminology for making a motion is I move that we have a summer picnic, or I move that whatever. The term is I move. And for those secretaries of you out there, when you record the minutes are to be a report of the official business. It doesn't have to include every little tidbit of every little discussion that went on in the meeting. That is not official. So sometimes you may include a little bit of it just to keep a record of what was said. But for the most part, the minutes should reflect primarily the actual action that took place. And when the secretary records those minutes, they will record who made a motion. You never record who seconded the motion. Seconds are not recorded. So Mary moved and it was seconded that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. So just some tidbits for making your meetings run a little more efficiently, and I hope that you have productive meetings. Mr. Toastmaster. Oh, and you wanted me to continue on?
Yeah. Are you taking comments or questions?
I can, yes.
I know of a group, it's real small, and they have the secretary's report and they have new business. That's all that they actually need. So that's the only things that are on their agenda. So I know it doesn't seem to be a full agenda, but isn't that okay? I mean,
they should still list them just in case anything comes up. It wouldn't hurt to have them listed. They could say that there are no committee reports and just move to the next thing. But they should actually be included. Those are the official parts of...
I know that somewhere in Roberts it says that you should use no more parliamentary procedure than is necessary to conduct the business at hand.
That is true. However, you never know. The chair who makes up the agenda doesn't know if somebody out there doesn't have a report that he may not have remembered.
I think you made an important point just now. The chair made up his agenda. The chair does belong to the agenda. It's adopted by the group, but it belongs to the chair.
Yeah, the chair actually, or unless he or she has delegated for somebody else to do it. Yes,
but it's still the president's
or
the
chair's
agenda.
Now, David mentioned earlier about our group. We had been part of the American Institute of Parliamentarians, but we felt that they had actually gone more towards one of the other parliamentary authorities other than Robert's Rules of Order. They have kind of gone off a little bit from Roberts, and so we felt that since most of the organizations that we're familiar with do follow Roberts, that it was more appropriate for us to continue with Robert's Rules of Order. One other interesting factor, AIP has no criteria for membership. To be a member of National Association of Parliamentarians, you actually have to take a test to become a regular member. You can be an associate member, but to be a regular member, you actually have to pass a test to be part of the group. And we felt that it gave it a little more credibility that way, and so we, as a group, decided that we would change our allegiance from AIP to National Association of Parliamentarians. I had originally joined NAP when I lived in Ohio, and when I moved to Fort Wayne, there was no local unit here. Mm-hmm. And with NAP, they're called units rather than chapters. And so I was a member at large in Indiana, but now I get to be back to a regular unit membership, and I'm very excited about that. And does anybody have any questions?
Well, if you want to talk a little bit about the exam they take, how difficult it is, and what they need to do to pass.
Well, you get a sample book, and you study all these questions, and then I believe it's 100 questions out of that book that you have to be able to answer.
Out of a field of 300.
And I had forgotten how many because it's been a while since I took the test. Tom, you took it recently, right? And
yes.
I think you aced it, if I remember correctly.
I did. Thank you for asking.
And Bernice, Dave's wife, has recently passed it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. And she also
aced the test.
Yeah.
So
I'm the dummy in the group.
Oh.
I only got 97.5. So.
But what happens at our meetings, we actually study a lot of these questions and parliamentary issues that might come up in a meeting, so that when I'm talking about agendas, it's almost like falling off a log, because when you work with it, it becomes a lot easier. And I think if you out there would come and join us sometime at our meetings, I think you'll find out it really helps.
You might want to ask Tom what we're doing this next month. It should prove to be quite interesting.
Oh, I hadn't heard what we're doing.
Yes. Let me first of all thank Marlene publicly. She is the one who has physically done most of the work, the typing, the making out of the forms and so forth to send to NAP. I suppose we could have done it without her, but it might have been a several-month process, even more than it is. Also, we're assuming nothing goes wrong, we're having a gentleman who belongs to an organization is going to come to our meeting Monday, and we are going to help him revise his bylaws and help him to have a greater understanding of parliamentary procedure in general. He's soon going to be the president of it. The bylaws are very old. They need updated. This is all according to him. And he is coming to us for this assistance, and that is part of what we do. And we won't even charge him for it.
That's right.
Yes, and I think we've done, reviewed and assisted in rewriting bylaws for a church, I believe, and a neighborhood association. And
There's another group, too.
yeah, we've had 3 of them now that I know that we've, and I personally redid bylaws for a Federation of Garden Clubs in Ohio. And so, and that part is fun. I think we need to do a presentation sometime on bylaws, because I find bylaws fascinating.
How about you next month?
I will check my calendar. So anyway, I'll turn the control of this lectern back over to our evening host.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Marlene. Now, Patricia, you're the only one that doesn't belong to the parliamentary unit here in Fort Wayne. Have you entertained any ideas of possibly joining it, or is that not on your plate or in your field of vision at this time?
Well, Dave, thank you for asking and putting me on the spot so nicely.
No, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that.
I know you didn't mean to, and I say that kiddingly. Every time I come to this TV show, I think, I need to get there. It's the 3rd Monday of the month. I need to get there. And I don't make it. My schedule is pretty packed right now, but it's on the horizon. Let's just put it that way. It's on the horizon.
Well, you don't actually have to pass this test to become a member. You can become what they call a provisional member. Mm-hmm. In fact, we already have a couple of provisional members right now within our little nucleus of 5 people, and that is the minimum number that we have to have a unit here in Fort Wayne. But just to become a provisional member, you are exposed to people who are using this on a monthly basis, and it sounds like it would be boring, but it really is not. And we make it anything but boring.
Wow, I can imagine with this group.
No, seriously. We can grind up and debate words for an hour on end and still not have an exact resolution. But it doesn't mean that we don't like one another and agree when we have a good at the end of the meeting. Mm-hmm. And so our group also is very, I think, very active. We usually try to get a proclamation from the mayor at least once a year, and that would be like during parliamentary month. Mm-hmm. And we are in receipt of a nice set of gavels. Now, you might think, ho-hum, gavels. But, you know, a gavel is a gavel. There's one around here somewhere, probably in my bag. It's the instrument that you use to call a meeting to order. It's a symbol of authority. It has been used since the beginning of time. And I personally think the first gavel was a big old club, you know. Whoever has the biggest club makes the most decisions. Well, you know what? We are down to our last 5 minutes. I don't know where these hours go, but Bob Lyman used to say, I like to give people their Boy Scout minutes. So having thought about that for a moment, maybe we could ask, maybe you, Patricia, do you have one final minute or thought that you'd like to share with us this evening?
Sure. American Red Cross Toastmasters Club. We meet every Tuesday at noon at the Red Cross on the corner of Coliseum and California Road. It is an open club, which means members of the community can join us. That means you college kids, come join us. And we welcome guests all the time. Please come see us. We would love to have you.
Okay. Marlene, do you want to talk about your club?
Oh, absolutely. The Bob Lyman Toastmasters Club is having an open house on October 27th. Now, we'll be meeting on the 13th also, and we would welcome guests then as well. But our open house is on October 27th. We're asking people to be there around 6 o'clock. The meeting will start promptly at 6:30 at the North Crest Pizza Hut, and we are going to be in the East meeting room. Normally we're in the west side, but this time we're going to be in the East meeting room because it's larger, and hopefully we'll have lots of guests there that evening. But if you want to come even earlier and enjoy some of their good food, we would welcome you to join us. Some of us get there around 5:30 and have plenty of time to eat prior to the meeting. So I would hope you join us for our Bob Lyman Toastmasters Club open house, October 27th, 6 o'clock, Northcrest Pizza Hut.
Okay. Thank you, Marlene. Very succinct. Tom, you're up next.
Yes, I would invite you to the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters meeting. We meet every Thursday at, like I said earlier, 6:30. We meet in the Coliseum Ivy Tech campus, room 1362. We have quite a lot going for us. We're a large club. We have access to audio-visual equipment for that kind of presentation. It's a good club. I would invite you to come join us at any time. And very quickly, the advanced speakers and leaders, if there are Toastmasters out there that don't belong to it, it meets here at this library, usually in the Business and Technology Room, the first Monday of every month. Patricia is actually our president of that club. It's for those who are a little more experienced and would be a second club for you. But, with that criteria, why we would love to see you.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Tom. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about the Bearfield Toastmaster Club. That meets on Tuesday night, this evening, at the Penguin Point on the south side of Fort Wayne on Lower Huntington Road. Again, good Toastmaster time at 6:30 till 8 o'clock. And I must tell you, it is the best club on the south side of Fort Wayne. And I would encourage all of you to invite to that club meeting. You're also invited to our parliamentary meeting, which will be, the next meeting will be here in the Globe Room on the 20th of October, and that starts at 6:30 also. Our next TV program will be Tuesday, November the 4th. It's also Election Day, so be sure to vote, then go home and watch the TV show. I also would like to thank Robert Boyd and Marty Stern for doing great camera work tonight. Elizabeth Lord is our director. Dennis Osborne has been doing the technical portion of the audio this evening. And for you folks at home watching us, thank you for watching. We love having to do this once a month, and we love having you. And thanks for the callers tonight.
Yes.
Next month, maybe we'll have some more.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So until next time, may your meetings be fair and productive. And thank you, and God bless, and good night.
Master's Edge.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.